I'm Ed Szoke, and I am a research meteorologist. I work for CERA in support of NOAA, and officially joined CERA, I believe it was 1996, but before that I was with NCAR, and off and on I was a contractor to NOAA through NCAR actually, from about the mid-'80s until I joined CERA. So I've actually been associated with NOAA for a long time. I went to University of Wisconsin in Madison for my bachelor's degree, and then on to Penn State for a master's degree. And then I really wanted to join the National Weather Service as a forecaster, but during the time I was trying to get a job there was a hiring freeze by the federal government. And I ended up in a private company in St. Louis, also forecasting, and they were kind of a startup company, so it was pretty exciting. We worked all night to get our product out by 7 a.m. And for a while, it looked like the company was doing well, but then suddenly things didn't go so well, and they really needed a shot of venture capital, but they never got it. And in less than a year, I kind of lost that job, and then somehow, luckily, got a job at NCAR. It was a one-year appointment, more in tropical meteorology, which I wasn't really interested in, but I knew a lot was going on out here in Boulder, and there was a chance for up to 2 years with that particular job. And of course, once I got out here, a lot of things were happening. And while I stayed at NCAR until 1996, I worked a lot with NOAA because there were different forecast exercises and other projects. And then I'd work with NCAR on different field experiments. So it was a lot. I was in a lot of variety of things. I know when I was probably 5 years old, I was fascinated by snowstorms, and I'd go out with a yardstick and measure snowdrifts. And I think pretty early on, I knew I was going to be a meteorologist. I would watch the TV weather. There was a great weather guy on at noon, and we would always come home for lunch from school back then. And actually, a couple of elementary teachers were very important. A third grade teacher started a weather calendar in class, and I did the same at home. As it turned out, I kind of lost interest when the weather warmed up that year, but then I started keeping weather records all the time. And then in fourth grade, after kind of a rough start, we got a teacher to replace a teacher that had retired, and he was interested in the weather, and he would give me weather maps that he was getting every day. It was called a daily weather map. You'd actually get a weather map in the mail, and it was pretty good. Even though it came in the mail, it was yesterday's weather map, which is, I think, pretty amazing. And he would share those with me sometimes, and then give me other weather stuff. And he was also my fifth grade teacher, so that was pretty important. And I took a lot of different things in high school to support what I needed as background for meteorology. So the typical day was often not extremely typical because I have done a lot of different projects and worked for a lot of different groups, often maybe 3 or 4 different projects at the same time. So I would kind of, and I wouldn't divide my day just working on each project, because some of them would depend on what the weather was doing and if I was gathering stuff to present at a meeting, for example. And then also for a while I used to work shifts at the National Weather Service office, which is in the same building that we work at in NOAA. And I did that for a lot of years, actually. So in that time, my day was pretty standard going to shift, but otherwise it would probably be doing different projects depending on what was going on. And then for a while I would work up in Fort Collins once a week as well with the satellite people up there. So that was pretty interesting stuff. My advice would be that many of us got into this field because, as you might be, because we were very passionate about the weather and interested in the weather. Um, and I think it's important to maintain some of that interest as you keep on going in the field, which now can be pretty dominated by computing work and programming, because numerical modeling is such a big part of our field now. So some of us will go storm chasing, for example, or do other things. Even if you have to take a day off, sometimes the boss will let you go for on a work day if the weather's really good. They may even go themselves. So it's or maybe take part in a weather discussion sometime, or even like I used to work shifts, but you could even work with forecasters sometimes. In other words, kind of don't just it's tricky just to get it. Sometimes in the job, you may not do a lot of the meteorology that you were interested in early on, but it's not. I'm not saying it's not important, however. And then the other thought, if you're interested in meteorology in high school, you want to courses that you need that are background for the degree in meteorology or math. So you need calculus, which can be a tricky one for some folks. So it's good to get a little bit in high school if you can. And then physics and chemistry. Usually a year of those in college each are required for the meteorology degree. And that's probably nowadays also one last maybe word is that in the old days, a lot of doors could be open with just a bachelor's degree, but now a lot of jobs require a master's degree as well. I know many forecasting positions do, but it varies. And there's also, though, one final thing is that there are now a lot of options at some schools for careers in broadcasting only, and those wouldn't need a master's degree. And that's a very important part of our field, because communication is big, and these colleges will offer a lot of courses, less maybe technical, but very useful courses in how to communicate. And that's going to be a big part of what we do in the future and what's going on now.